To the second installment of the DES2 section view worksheet sketch tutorial. In this episode we will develop the top view. Step 3. Develop the top view. Okay, we're going to first establish the back of the part. So we're going to come in a couple grids from the back and establish where we want the back of the part to be. And that'll establish all the spacing for this view and all the other associated views. So we just draw a horizontal line. Now that establishes the spacing for the part, and everything we draw should be forward of that line. Now we're going to use a technique with two triangles to project lines from the bottom view to the top view. So the bottom triangle, I'm going to try by my best to hold it as still as possible and use it as a sliding edge for the other triangle to slide back and forth and pick up on every visible edge. Now some people use a different technique where they'll draw just one portion, but I prefer to do all the visible lines first. So this first line establishes the right side of the part view. Then we pick up on each subsequent line that intersects our triangle that would be a visible feature and transfer that up to the top. So now we're moving on to the slot. The other side of the slot. And then we're on the opposite side of the boss. The small diameter on the flange. And then the outside diameter of the part, which gives us the opposite end of the overall length of the part. So we have all the visible lines transferred. Let's erase the tails we've got here that we don't need. Okay, so now we can start measuring from the back of the part to build the height. And remember, we have a scale of 2 to 1. So it looks like the flange, the outside flange is about half a grid line in our example, so that makes it one grid line on our paper. And then we jog over one grid line and up another grid to get the small diameter of the flange. And I'm going to make a series of dots where they intersect with our projection lines, and we can more or less connect those dots to get the outside visible profile. And I'm putting the gap in the depth of the slot and continuing on with each subsequent intersection. Okay, so if we were to connect that series of dots, we would have our part profile. Starting with the outside edge. Then I'm moving over to the next point. Got the horizontal edge and then the vertical edge, which is in plane of material. Okay, which is the corner there. Now we're going to go to the corner of the boss. We go horizontal and then vertical. And that makes the overall height of our component. Now we're going to draw a line across the face, leaving a gap for the slot based off the projection lines we made. And we detail out the slot following the grid of lines we've made. The other side of the boss, the horizontal plane of the flange, and the step down in diameter to the outside diameter. There we go, you have your outside profile. We do have some visible lines of edges of the flange, and oops, I hit my camera. Whose head is in the way there? And then we got the top edge of the smaller diameter of the flange. There we go. We have all the visible edges. Now let's do some erasing of construction lines. Okay, so now I'm going to put in, just crisping up the construction line for the center. And next I'm going to darken up the construction line on the back so that it's consistent with the sides. So there's all our visible edges, and we should have the profile of the part established. Now it's time to move on to the hidden lines, which are the 3 bolt holes and the center bore. So we're going to set up our triangles and project those from the bottom view. Okay, we're going to start with the farthest one. I'm right-handed, so makes it easy to move from right to left, but okay, now we've established the hidden lines for the first bolt hole. Moving on to the second bolt hole. Yeah, broke a lead. Okay, second bolt hole for the flange is completed. And now we're going on to the third one. Alright, so now let's do the bore in the center. So we have 2 lines to project for the bore, and that goes all the way through the part. One side is established, and now the second side. Okay, crisping up some of those lines. And now we have the outside view ready, and we're going to establish our center lines, and this view should be done. So the center line should be a solid line with a dash towards center of the feature. So we should have one for each series of holes. And erase them off so that they're the length they should be in spec. And delete the construction line in between the 2 views. Alright, we finished the top view. That ends this tutorial segment. So this is the end of part 2. Please continue on to part 3 for the actual section view.